Welcome to latest News Blaster. For decades, Rob Reiner has been one of Hollywood's most familiar and trusted faces. From All in the Family to When Harry Met Sally, from political commentary to directing classics, Reiner's life has unfolded largely in the public eye, or so it seems. But behind the calm public persona and polished career lies a night that Hollywood insiders still refuse to discuss openly. A night that quietly altered relationships, reshaped perceptions, and triggered a silence that has only grown louder with time. No police reports, no public statements, no official confirmation, just whispers, and an industry that suddenly stopped talking. A reputation built on stability. For years, Rob Reiner represented something rare in Hollywood: consistency. He wasn't known for scandals. He wasn't associated with chaotic behavior. He wasn't the subject of late-night tabloid headlines. Instead, Reiner was viewed as a dependable filmmaker, a politically outspoken but disciplined figure, a family man who kept his private life private. That's why what happened inside his home that night stood out so sharply to those who knew him. Because afterward, things changed. The night, everything went quiet. Those close to Reiner described the evening as unremarkable on the surface. No red carpets, no public event, no media presence. Yet within days, several unusual things occurred. Meetings were abruptly cancelled. Long-time collaborators became unreachable. Scheduled appearances quietly disappeared. Phone calls went unanswered. A sudden tightening of privacy around Reiner's personal life. To outsiders, it looked like nothing. To those in the industry, it felt like something had gone wrong. The silence that followed. Hollywood thrives on leaks. Even the smallest drama usually finds its way into entertainment columns. But this time, nothing. No TMZ story. No Page 6 rumor. No anonymous source confirming details. That absence of noise became the story. One longtime producer, speaking anonymously, later said, "When people stop talking all at once, it's usually because everyone knows the same thing, and no one wants to be the one to say it. What insiders will say, carefully." While no one has ever publicly described the incident, several consistent themes have emerged from those close to the situation. Not facts, not accusations, patterns. 1. A personal confrontation. Multiple sources suggest the night involved a deeply personal confrontation. Not professional, not criminal, but emotionally heavy. Something was said. Something was revealed. Something couldn't be taken back. 2. A shift in relationships. Afterward, long-standing friendships cooled. Collaborations stopped without explanation. People who once spoke openly about Reiner suddenly avoided his name in interviews. 3. A change in behavior. Those who knew him best noticed a difference. More guarded, less visible, more selective about appearances, more private than ever before. Not broken, not disgraced, but changed. Why Hollywood won't talk about it? Hollywood has no problem exposing scandals, unless the truth complicates the narrative. In this case, there was no villain, no arrest, no lawsuit, no headline-friendly accusation. Just a situation too personal, too nuanced, and too uncomfortable to pack in. One former studio executive explained it this way: "It wasn't something you could turn into a headline without hurting people who didn't deserve it. So everyone backed off." That decision, to stay silent, may be why the mystery still lingers. The media's quiet agreement. Entertainment journalism thrives on access. Burn one bridge, and doors close fast. Reiner's influence, reputation, and decades of goodwill created an unspoken rule: this story stays private. Even outlets known for aggressive reporting avoided it. Not because they couldn't dig, because they chose not to. That, in itself, says everything. Fans begin asking questions. As years passed, observant fans noticed subtle changes. Fewer interviews, less public engagement, a noticeable shift in tone when discussing personal life, a preference for political commentary over personal storytelling. Online forums began asking quiet questions. Why did he suddenly disappear for a while? Why did so many collaborators stop mentioning him? Why does no one talk about that period? But without facts, speculation never became headlines. What most likely happened? Based on everything known, and just as importantly, everything avoided, the most plausible explanation is not scandal, but emotional fallout. A moment that strained relationships, forced hard decisions, changed personal dynamics permanently. The kind of night people don't talk about because talking wouldn't help. The legacy of that night. Today, Rob Reiner continues to work, speak, and appear publicly. But the version of him before that night, more open, more visible, more carefree, seems to belong to another era. Those close to him describe it not as a downfall, but a dividing line. Before that night, after that night, and Hollywood, for once, agreed to look the other way. Final thoughts. Not every Hollywood story ends in scandal. Not every mystery hides a crime. And not every silence means guilt. Sometimes, silence simply means respect. Complicated emotions. A moment too personal to monetize. What happened inside Rob Reiner's home that night may never be publicly known. But the way the industry responded tells its own story. One of boundaries, quiet understanding, and a rare moment when Hollywood chose not to speak. And in an industry built on noise, that silence says everything. In the days following that night, something subtle yet unmistakable shifted around Rob Reiner. It wasn't a scandal in the traditional sense, no police lights, no headlines, no legal documents leaked to the press. Yet people who had worked closely with him for years noticed the same thing, a distance that hadn't existed before. Calls that were once returned immediately went unanswered. Meetings were postponed without explanation. Familiar faces stopped appearing at gatherings where Reiner was expected. It wasn't dramatic, it was quiet. And in Hollywood, quiet often speaks louder than chaos. One longtime industry insider later described it as a moment where everyone collectively decided not to ask questions, a house that became a boundary. The home itself, once a place known for private dinners, political discussions, and creative conversations, reportedly became off-limits. Invitations slowed, visits stopped. Even close acquaintances admitted they hadn't been inside since that night. Not because they were told not to come, because they understood they shouldn't. In Hollywood, boundaries are rarely stated aloud. They're felt. And once felt, they're respected. Especially when the people involved have spent decades earning influence and discretion. Why no one spoke publicly? The entertainment industry thrives on exposure, yet it also survives on relationships. Speaking openly about personal matters involving a respected figure like Reiner would have risked more than reputation. It could have ended careers. More importantly, those familiar with the situation insist there was nothing criminal to expose. No wrongdoing, no victim, no legal issue. What remained was something harder to report on. Emotional fallout, personal confrontation, irreversible private decisions. And those rarely translate into headlines without causing unnecessary harm. So the media did what it often does in rare cases like this. It stepped back. The subtle shift in his public presence. Following that period, audiences noticed changes in Rob Reiner's public behavior. He became more guarded in interviews, less open about personal topics, more focused on political or social commentary, noticeably quieter about his private life. He still appeared, he still worked, but the openness was gone.